All right, welcome back, everybody. It is the Awesemo.com Nhl Dfs strategy show. Got a nice Monday slate. Ton of money to be made today. Hopefully, all of you new people have had some success playing some Nhl Dfs. Hopefully, we can continue that for these next couple of days with massive tournaments. I'm Jake Hari. I am joined by a familiar face of the company, my Monday partner in crime, Terry McBride. What's up, Terry? How was the weekend?
Weekend was good, buddy. It was nice taking a little break from basketball. Got to play some NHL for a change and actually enter some of the analysis that I did on Friday. So it was good. I got to ride some of my picks and did pretty well there. So it was, fun. And then a little bit relaxing of a weekend, a little lower stress, not having to do a ton for hoops all weekend. And I got to focus a little on my new role. So it was good. How about you? How's the weekend?
It was good. It was, DFS wasn't great, but weather is turning around here. It's looking like it's going to be nice for at least the next couple of days. So got outside a little bit, obviously played some NHL. Had a chance to have a really nice night on Saturday, and then things kind of fell apart late. Did okay yesterday. I think I got most of my entry fees back. So not too bad. Won a couple spin tickets for tomorrow for DK with the big 100K to first. So nice. Racking up a few of those. I'm going to try to take down the 100K, as I'm sure a lot of other people are. Got a couple 50Ks to first tonight. So that is very exciting. We don't often see this. And it was a little bit funny to see some of these NBA guys come over. Hey, I hear there's not that much news in NHL. You kind of just set your lineups and forget it. Well, they had a pretty rude awakening this weekend with the McKinnon scratches. If you missed their Saturday show, Josh and I went through that a little bit. McKinnon scratch. There were a handful of late scratches on Friday specifically. And then Sunday is always crazy because a lot of people like their day games. A lot of guys aren't skating early in the mornings. And so, you got to stay on top of things. But I think a lot of people have had some success. And we're looking to keep that going at least for the next couple of days. And hopefully a lot of these people stick around. I think, you always hear about people having fun playing NHL DFS. And we want to keep these contests up on all the sites that we've got. So what are you thinking about this slate right now? I mean, 6 games looks like a pretty good MME slate. And there's going to be some chalk. We're working on getting ownership updated again. There were a few changes from earlier. Top Stacks, all that's going to be updated. Top Stacks is free today. Just want to mention that. But what are your initial thoughts on this slate here, Terry?
I like it. It looks like a solid slate, some fun matchups, a couple games that are, a little bit of a heavy spread, but, 4 out of the 6 at least are pretty tight spreads and all decent totals. No game at 5, 3 games at 5.5, 2 at 6, and 1 at 6.5. So really like the totals. I think we could have a nice high scoring, fun affair.
Yeah. And we'll get to the premier game coming up in about 20, 30 minutes or so. The show, if you guys are new, it'll go for an hour as most of our strategy shows do. NHL is pretty much the only game in town. This is not going to lock at 7 p.m. Eastern, which is the standard lock time for NBA and NHL. This is going to be an hour later. So you've got an extra hour. You're going to want to be in Slack at around 7:30 Eastern for the first game. And then make sure you're checking out whether it's Slack or Twitter, if you're following beat writers, to make sure the guys that we think are going to play actually do end up playing. So you're not stuck with zeros in your lineup. You don't want to be stuck with zeros in any sport. NHL is no different. Yeah, I'm seeing some people having some sex.
Really? Which window are you looking at? I'm going to pull
success,
that up. Hold on.
Yeah, success in chat. But yeah, we got a super chat from Robbie here. He says, thanks for your help over the weekend. Let's make it a huge night. He says, Robbie is, nice. I believe that's the same Robbie from Premium Slack. And so he's sending us money over on YouTube. People's having some fun with my slip up there, as they should. But yeah, I don't know. What have been your thoughts so far over the All-Star break? Has anything changed, you think?
But I tell you, it's interesting, like you said, seeing all the people jumping in thinking, easy game. We just stack it in the middle of the afternoon. Don't have to worry about it. And then the guy that got burnt by the same thing they get burnt by all the time in their NBA lives. So, a little bit of a taste of what it's really like playing NHL for some people, I think. But I do hope that the people who are listening to us and the people who jumped over kind of keep on playing because, like you said, they'll keep the prize pools up if the interest is there. If people are playing and people are actively asking for it, they'll keep these prize pools up. So just keep the interest going. It's a great sport. It's a ton of fun. What I really love about doing this for the site is I thought it would get me back into playing a ton more NHL DFS. What it's really helped me do is just rediscover my love of hockey and getting into watching the game and really enjoying it. I had gotten away from the sport I was casually following it. I was watching the Rangers, but now I'm watching games all over the place and, it doesn't even matter who's playing. So I'm just really enjoying that aspect of it too. So it's just been fun.
Yeah, it's been a ton of fun. So we've seen some tough beats in chat. I'm seeing some people saying that they, took fourth, took third in big tournaments. So yeah, kind of all over the place. Hopefully more of you guys are doing well than having a tilting experience. This can be a very tilting sport. Haven't gotten bit too bad by the goalies recently, but that'll probably happen on the biggest slate of the season. And this will be the biggest slate until tomorrow. So if you don't get there tonight, we've always got tomorrow. And this is a very exciting show, Terry, because we've finally got a sponsor for the first time this season on the NHL DFS strategy show. So it's time to talk a little bit about Jock Market. It's turned fantasy sports into a stock exchange. Jock Market allows you to buy and sell shares of players in real time for real money with guaranteed payouts for all the shares at the end of the night. So they've got daily markets in NBA, now NHL, PGA, and you can make real money every hour, every minute, every second of any match or game. Use the pregame IPO to pick up shares of your favorite players. Then you can buy more, sell, or hold during the game based on your analysis. So you download the app to get started and use our exclusive Awesemo promo code. This is the moment you've been waiting for after the read. Awesemo NHL 50, $50 bonus on your first deposit. That's right, Awesemo NHL 50. It's an exclusive offer for only the Awesemo community. And there's really no other sites doing $50 deposit bonuses. So go support Jock Market. They're helping support us. And this promo expires Saturday. So you got to take advantage over the next few days. Might as well just do it tonight. Awesemo NHL 50 is the promo code. Get up to $50 of a deposit bonus on your first deposit. Pretty good stuff there, Terry.
Not bad at all, dude. $50. That's great.
I mean, yeah, back in the day, maybe you could find those on a handful of sites, but Jock Market, pretty much the only site that's doing that kind of thing right now. So yeah, go support, guys. Let's get into the games. We've got Vegas and Minnesota. This is, again, 8 p.m. Eastern lock, an hour later than what you NBA guys are used to, an hour later than what us NHL guys are used to as well. 2.9 implied total for the Knights, 2.7 for the Wild. It's going to be Marc-Andre Fleury and Kaapo Kähkönen as your goalies. We're expecting Fleury. Maybe some of you had some issues with Fleury the other night. It was Oscar Dansk, who was a late addition to the Vegas lineup. But we think it's going to be Fleury tonight. Minnesota did some line shuffling. I'm seeing the old lines on the lineup builder right now. I don't know if they skated this morning. I can't remember off the top of my head. But Minnesota, pretty good defensive team. And a couple of question marks for the Vegas side. Mark Stone left the game early on Saturday. He is a game time decision. I'm pretty much expecting him to play. And then Pietrangelo also has a question mark around his name. So potentially two big losses for the Golden Knights. Minnesota looks to be at full strength. What do you got your eye on here, Terry?
Yeah, I really like that Vegas team. We've talked about them a bunch of times that we've been on shows together through the year so far, and just one of the best teams in the league overall. First in the West, sixth in the NHL, 16-4-1 this year, 33 points in 27 games. They're just very, very good. They've got the second best penalty killing unit in the league at 87.7%. They lead the league in goals against with only 44 goals against, while being 16th with 70 goals for. So just a really well-structured team. You mentioned Stone might be out on that top line, which would be a shame. That's one of the best lines going. 423 together since the start of last year. 59.3% Corsi for, a 38-11 goals for advantage, which is 77.5% goals for, 67% expected goals for. So that's not a huge differential on a gigantic goals differential, which is pretty cool. 106-48 high danger chances generated and 21-8 high danger goals. So just really effective, dominant line. Second line is right there with them. They both have power play correlation if they're rolling the standard lines. So if you do get Stone, you get that top line with power play correlation. And then the Carlson, Marchessault, Smith line is pretty solid as well. 629 minutes together, 56% Corsi for percentage. Closer margins on the goals scored, but 132 to 99 in high danger chances generated. So another line that can, just really get things done. So I like both the top two from Vegas.
Yeah, I think there are things to like here for Vegas. I mean, if you think about it, like it kind of stinks that this is the first game of the slate because you might be getting a really, really low owned Mark Stone. And I think he'll be relatively low owned. It's not like an elite spot for Vegas. I'm a little worried about the matchup for the Pacioretty, Stevenson, Stone line, Eriksson Ek with Greenway and Foligno, or, Eriksson Ek with Greenway and whoever have been a really good 5-on-5 line. And they usually take opposing top competition when they're on home ice. And so I'm a little bit wary of that line, but I'm seeing the ownership is so low on one of the best lines in hockey, that Stevenson with Pacioretty Stone line. So those kind of offset for me. I think I'll get to some Vegas one. Just keep an eye out for Stone. I think I like the matchup a little bit better for Carlson, Marchessault, and Riley Smith getting to go up against the second and third lines for the Wild. The Rask line has been very high events. Bukestad, not a great two-way center. Fiala and Parise, not great defensively either. So I like Vegas too, a decent amount here. On the Wild side, there's not really anything I love with their lines being pretty spread around. I thought someone said something about Fiala with Eriksson Ek. So someone in chat remind me on the lines, because I don't have them in front of me. It looks like FC hasn't updated them.
Seen that.
Yeah, just yet. So if Fiala is with Eriksson Ek and Greenway, I think I would have some interest in that. But other than that, I think I'm kind of spreading around my exposure on the Wild. Their defensemen, Suter, Spurgeon, Dumba, Brodin, I guess these guys are all playable at their respective prices. Maybe not Brodin for 4,800, no power play time, but don't mind any of the Minnesota defensemen. On the Golden Knights, it's going to be a lot of Shea Theodore for me. Like him as a one-off, even if you're not stacking Vegas. But he goes a little bit better with the top line than that second line, the way they have their power plays currently constructed. Anything else in this one here?
Don't dislike the Suter call on the Minnesota defense. Very cheap and not getting a lot of ownership for a relatively productive kid. 1 point on the power play this year, 29 block shots in fewer games than that. I don't have their games played, and 8 assists. So decent production. On the Vegas side, I think Alec Martinez could be a very cheap one-off defenseman. You don't get power play with him, but he blocks a ton of shots and he's productive. 10 points, goal and 9 assists on the year, ton of ice time, 22-49 on the ice, 71 block shots in their 27 games. So, I mean, you get a ton of blocks there.
EMAC coming at my appearance in the chat. He says, I'm looking super skinny. I don't know. Is that a compliment or not, Terry? I mean, super skinny. I wouldn't like to be super skinny. I mean, skinny.
I think like slim, a good, good, healthy skinny is good.
Right.
Super skinny, you start to, really wonder.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So he says, just make sure you get your daily dose of apples and Genos. And if anybody doesn't know what that is the DK reward system. One of the main season-long rewards you can get is called apples and Genos. So Emac's always chasing after those. He's grinding the showdowns. He plays way more slates than me for NHL without it being even his main sport. So he's constantly sending me these 5-10x screenshots and just grinding out everything. And so he'll hit the apples and Genos, I'm sure, very soon, playing a lot less lineups, but a lot more slates than someone like me. So good to see EMAC getting into some NHL DFS.
Always.
Yeah. All right. Was there anything else you wanted to mention here? Are we good?
I think we hit the high points on this one.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Arizona and Colorado. 2.4 implied total for the Yotes, 3.2 for the Avs. It's going to be Kemper, probably going to be Grubauer for the Avs. We've got some changes on the Colorado side. So Kadri, no McKinnon tonight. He was skating this morning in a non-contact jersey. So he's going to be out, which that's going to push even more ownership to Edmonton, which we'll get to next game. Here we've got a 3-wing top line with Mikko Rantanen playing center for the first time I can remember in his NHL career. Centering Landeskog and Val Nichushkin. Kadri centering a line that we've seen play a bunch together. Saad and Burakovsky. Tyson Jost with Manga and there's Megna and Jonas Donskoy on the third line. I think I would have really liked Colorado 1 again here if Kadri was centering like Rantanen and Landeskog. I don't really know what to do with these lines. Now with the 3 wings, it makes it really difficult to play them. We'll get ownership updated very shortly and to have it reflected more on all these line changes. But is there anything you like on both sides, either side here, I should say?
So I'm with you. I would have liked that Colorado 1 line better with Kadri in the middle, but I think it kind of works out because you're getting an oddball line a little. You're getting some skill still, obviously, on that line, despite Rantanen playing in the center. Like you said, for the first time in at least recent memory, you still got him and Landeskog on that line. A lot of talent there. So I think since it's 3 wings, it's a little difficult to put together. Might suppress the ownership. It might become somewhat sneaky there. And then you can still pick off, the 2 guys on the top power play unit to go with, somebody else. Maybe we'll grab one of the defensemen or just stack the power play purely. So I think there are still plays to be made there. But I definitely like Colorado. It took a lot of the appeal away once they shook up those lines a little bit more. Would have obviously been best to have McKinnon back and play the standard lines. But this is like the third best version of what they could have done for us on these lines. So, yeah, not getting to a ton there. And then Arizona, just not great. 37% win probability tonight, 6th in the West, 25 points in their 24 games. Team Corsi for the season, 48.62% Corsi for. 91.6% save percentage is decent. So they've been getting a little help in goal. Kemper's got a 9.15 save percentage in his 17 games. So playing decent keeps them in games, but there's not a ton of, on these lines that I really like to get to, and not a ton of experience playing together. There's limited sample sizes on all of them. On the second line, you can get to Garland and Schmaltz have a lot of time together as a duo. 505-40 playing together. They've got a 54.9% Corsi for percentage, so they control the puck pretty well. 28-18 goals for advantage, 57% expected goals for with them skating as a duo. So I think you can maybe play them, maybe work Cruz in as a full line stack, or go to the power play stack with Arizona, but it's not one of my favorite things.
Yeah, I kind of just hate the lines here all around. I mean, what Arizona's got going on, I'm seeing Schmaltz, Garland with Lawson Krause. Krause is not a very good player. I think he scored last game against Minnesota because I'm pretty sure I was ragging on him to a couple of my friends, and then he ended up scoring while we were watching the game. So, yeah, that's usually how it goes. It's like when we hate on Alex Wenberg or Cliffy hates on Dylan Dubé, the multi-goal game is just an absolute lock. So I won't hate too much on Lawson Krause here, but I do like who he's playing with, Schmaltz and Garland. I think whenever those 2 guys are together, I'm usually there in some fashion. So we're showing very low ownership for them, assuming that keeps up. I like them going up against a definitely weakened Colorado team. No Cale Makar still, no Bowen Byram, no JT Compher, and obviously no Nathan McKinnon. So one of the better defensive teams in all the NHL when they're fully healthy, if not maybe the best. Right now, they're just not that same team. They're down 4 guys that are big parts for them offensively and defensively. So I like the Schmaltz-Garland duo a little bit, or maybe a power play stack with Arizona. I know you don't love playing Arizona for their power play. And they're kind of all spread around. So maybe something like Garland, Brassard, and Dvorak for pretty cheap is something I would look to, just try to catch a handful of goals should Arizona score them. And then on the Avs, I don't know. I kind of feel fishy just saying that. It just makes me not want to play them. But some sort of PP stack, I think is fine. Kadri Burakovsky with one of Rantanen or Landeskog. And then you take Sam Girard, maybe, but $5,200 Sam Girard with no McKinnon. He's not really a guy that's going to get you a bunch of shots and blocks. And so a lot of his value at this price is just going to come from playing on the power play. And if they don't have their best player, definitely a downgrade for a guy like Girard. So kind of just lukewarm on the Avs. I think they're going to be more fillers for me. And again, the 3 wings makes it difficult. So if you want to play a $2,500 Val Nichushkin, people were talking about him in Slack earlier today. I've got no problem with that. Going to get some top line run, increased minutes, all that. But yeah, generally just not a game I'm in love with. Anyone on the blue line that we should point out here?
Maybe if you, again, another guy without power play, but super cheap Ryan Graves, not getting a ton of ownership, is a guy that has some padding with block shots and takes a fair amount of shots. Doesn't score a ton, doesn't get on the ledger in other ways, but can do a little bit in those areas. And not a guy that's super popular or very expensive. So just kind of a one-off defenseman maybe to get to if you need some savings.
Yeah, that was actually the guy that I was going to mention was Graves. So I'm right there with you. His minutes kind of fell off a cliff. He was playing like 23, 24. And then I want to say 2 games ago. Yeah, it was on Friday, I think, when McKinnon got scratched. He only played like 17. So me and Josh were a little worried about him on Saturday when they played back-to-back. But they jumped back up to, I think, 21, 22. So I like Graves for 4,600. If he's playing with Girard, you can bet with no Makar that those guys are going to play a lot. So 4,600 for Graves, I think, is still a solid play. And probably going back to some of the Jacob McDonald for 2,800. His minutes have been a little bit all over the place, but assuming he gets like 17, 18 here, 2,800 is a pretty good price for McDonald. No one that I'm really eyeing down on the Arizona side for the blue line. Goligoski is a guy I always get to some when he's cheap, just more of a block shots opportunity thing with him, 3,400. I don't mind playing some one-offs with him there, but I think that's all I've got on this game. You want to go to the premier game of the slate here?
Let's do it.
All right. Ottawa and Edmonton. We've got a 2.6 implied total for the Sens, 3.9 for the Oilers. It's going to be Matt Murray / Marcus Hogberg. Murray went last night, so I've got Hogberg penciled in. That's not to say that they can't go with Murray back-to-back. We've seen it a handful of times this season with various teams, but he's got a huge total going against him. It's going to be Mikko Koskinen for the Oilers. And Edmonton tired of struggling offensively, although they've been doing okay with McDavid and Draisaitl, 2 of the top point getters in the entire league. They're going to pair them up. This is one of the first times we've seen this season. We're about halfway through. It was going to come at some point. They're paired up with Kyler Yamamoto. I mean, this is going to be the chalk spot of the night, and I don't really know what to do with it besides just play as much as I can and try not to get duped when I play it. So how are you treating Edmonton tonight, Terry?
Yeah, I think that's right in line with what we have to do, kind of just treat this as good chalk and one of the likely to be optimal plays, likely to be the most optimal line to play, and just figure out ways to get to it while you're getting different in other spots. So it's all about building those unique combinations, something we talk about in some of the other sports a lot. So just think the same way with your stacks. Get unique with the second stack that you use, get unique with your defenseman, and just ride the good chalk. I think it makes a ton of sense here. I mean, they're in a great spot, 69.14% win probability. Edmonton's third in the North. You mentioned struggling on offense, but still 83 goals for, third in the league. 25 goals, 25th with 80 goals against. So they're struggling a little bit defensively as well. They might yield a few to some of Ottawa's higher end players. So we can get into them a little bit, but excellent power play. They're ninth in the league, 25.29. 75.9 penalty kill percentage, a little bit rough there. They could improve that. But that top line just, should be excellent with those guys skating together. 46-34 sample going back to the start of last year, 54.8% Corsi for percentage, 5-1 in goals. So that's an 83% actual goals for, 55% expected goals for advantage, 9-7 in high danger chances, 2-1 in high danger goals. So really like what we can see there. And then on the second line, getting to Nuge and Puljujarvi, 208, 12 together going back to the start of last year, 53.97% Corsi for percentage, 57-39 in high danger chances generated. A lot to like about that second line as well. And I believe it's Ennis on the left over there. That's what I have on that line.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the spot here. So we get ownership updated. It will be a high number on Edmonton 1. Yeah. The double center isn't as big of a deal as the triple winger. So when they miss a position like that, it's, it might even make ownership a little bit higher because people love playing 3 centers. But yeah, I mean, McDavid, Draisaitl, Yamamoto, got to be the top stack of the night. You're not really worried about a specific matchup here. I will say that the Brown Kachuk line has been okay defensively, but when you're this good at 5-on-5, McDavid and Draisaitl together, just number of years they have a sample size of, it doesn't really matter all that often. One thing that I'll point out here is if you look at the previous games where Edmonton played Ottawa, I think it was the last time they played, it was on like a Sunday night, and the Senators didn't have Shabbat. So him being back does make a little bit of a difference. But yeah, I wouldn't expect another 8-goal rout. But the thing with Edmonton one is that if they're going to score, if Edmonton's going to score close to their implied total here, let's say 4 goals, it's really tough to imagine a scenario in which like McDavid and Draisaitl and Yamamoto get left off the score sheet. And even like it's tough to see them not combine for like 5 or 6 points minimum if there are 4 goals here. So
that's essentially what this line is telling us. You know, the Vegas total is telling us that this line is specifically is going to score goals. I mean, it's they're not anticipating that 4 goals are going to come from these other lines. It's specifically about that top unit.
Yeah. I've got some interest in Ottawa 3 on the other side, Stützle, Norris, and Batherson. That's been a darling line for the Slack chat recently. They've had a couple big nights. Stützle's been scoring goals on the power play, Batherson as well. I want to like Colin White and Nick Paul, but I'm reading a tweet right now that says the Sens are down 1 forward, and then the writer mentions Evgeny Dadonov. So this came out like less than an hour ago. And the Sens recalled a player from their taxi squad. So I think Dadonov might be out. That's what they're speculating. So we're going to keep an eye on this one, but this doesn't lock, which is a little bit frustrating because I would like to play depth lines against Edmonton, especially when they've got the top line stacked up like this. When they're not on the ice, it's going to be good matchups for Ottawa, a team that can generate some offense. So 2 and 3, however they are constituted at lock, is how I'm going to go with Ottawa. Probably going to avoid the Tkachuk Brown line just because I think they see the most time against McDavid and Draisaitl here.
Yeah, that makes some sense. They're obviously the more expensive line and drawing a little bit more ownership. So yeah, getting away from them makes sense. I definitely am with you on the Batherson and Stützle combo. At least I know they've been producing a little bit, and everybody's been on them. The pricing hasn't really come up on those guys, and neither has really the public ownership overall. So I think it could be another sneaky spot. And like you mentioned, just getting into some of those secondary lines for Edmonton, where they are struggling a little bit defensively and not the sharpest defensive unit, not the greatest puck control unit. Yeah, I think that could definitely make some sense to start attacking them with 2 and 3.
Yeah, and people are correcting me, rightfully so. Joey Decord is the backup right now for Ottawa. So, I don't think they have a ton of confidence in him. I don't think they have a ton of confidence in anyone going up against Edmonton with this line, but it definitely could be Murray. I think Decord is 6,800. Yeah, he's 6,800 on DK. So if you're worried about that, you could start with Murray and always swap down, figure out the extra 200 elsewhere. On the defenseman here, Artem Zub at 2,500. I saw Cliffy and Josh mentioning him yesterday. He's playing around 20 minutes. Not a bad punt for 2,500. On the Edmonton side, Tyson Barrie, if you're going to go with the Edmonton onslaught or Edmonton 1, because he's playing power play 1. But I also don't want to forget about Darnell Nurse at 6,600. He's more of the peripherals guy. He's going to get you more shots and blocks. He's going to be playing with Tyson Barrie at 5-on-5. So you can see a scenario where Edmonton 1 dominates at 5-on-5, and Nurse is the guy that ends up getting a couple assists. So even though he's not in the power play with them, I think he's a strong correlation play with Edmonton 1. So I'll be it's just a good pivot for $600 more. He's going to be less owned than Tyson Barrie. Anything else here?
I would have called out the Nurse play there. I like him a lot and love the ice time that he gets. And I like the ability to spend a little bit of salary to cut some of that ownership off what should be a really popular blue line plays by going from Barrie to Nurse. So totally with you on that one. And he's cheaper on FanDuel and still less owned. So on FanDuel, you pick up $100 by going to him. So I really like that play.
If you guys haven't checked it out yet, the NHL DFS Top Stacks tool is free today. We're unlocking the goods on one of the best slates of the season, and you're going to want to check that out. We'll get that updated a couple more times up to lock. What the Top Stack tool does is it gives you the chance that each stack on the slate will be a top 2 stack, their ownership share, and then their leverage, which is just the difference between those two numbers. You want lines with positive leverage. Or if you're playing lines with negative leverage, you might want to pair them with a line that has positive leverage. And so that's kind of how that tool works. I think it's the best look at the slate on one page. If you know nothing else about NHL DFS, Top Stacks tool is a great way to help you build competitive lineups And then you just got some work to do with your goalies and your defensemen after that. But this is the best way to do it. Whether you are a hand builder or you're using Fantasy Cruncher, Top Stacks tool is a must, and it's free for today only. Let's go to St. Louis and San Jose. We got a 3.4 implied total for the Blues, 2.7 for the Sharks. It's going to be Ville Husso going up against Devin Dubnyk for the Sharks. And we had some big news the other day, so we'll just reiterate here. Vladimir Tarasenko returned for the Blues. He played, I think, 15 or 16 minutes, so close to his normal time, not quite up to speed just yet. Maybe a conditioning thing for him. I'm treating him like he's playing the whole game, like he's Vladimir Tarasenko of 2 seasons ago. He's been injured off and on. The return from the COVID layoff and all of last season, basically. So he hasn't really played in a while, but 4,200 here. Right now, the highest owned player on the slate, according to our ownership projections. And what are you thinking about St. Louis 1 here? He's playing with O'Reilly and Jordan Kyrou.
Yeah, I think it's a good spot. It's interesting, the price discrepancy on Tarasenko from FanDuel to DK. DK, he's 4,200 because, like you said, hasn't really played very much in 2 years. FanDuel doesn't really care about that. Got him priced where he was 2 years ago, 6,900. Still drawing 20% ownership over there. So that's pretty interesting to me. People are willing to pay up for him and willing to pay to get to him. Might make it, for that price, worth taking a look around, maybe getting to a different spot on FanDuel just because the price isn't keeping people away. So if you want to pay up and into ownership, I'm not sure that's the best decision. I like it better where you're doing a lot of saving getting to him on DraftKings, even though he's popular. I think you gain by doing that. So it's a different play from site to site. But overall, I like that line. Just looking at Kyrou and O'Reilly together while Tarasenko's been out, 103.04 going back to the start of last year, 54.29% Corsi for together, 5.5 goals for, goals against. So decent, effective line, very good with puck control. Adding Tarasenko and a player of his caliber, assuming full health and everything, should be a big pickup for them as well. So like that. And I think there's something to be said about the second line over there too, drawing some ownership, but more in like that mid-range with Hoffman, Shen, and David Perron on it. Very capable scorers, putting up a decent year across the board, the three of them. So I think we can definitely do some work with that. And they have experience, Shen and Hoffman together, Shen and Perron together. And then as the three of them as a full unit, it's a bit limited over the last 2 years. But definitely some significant time for the two duos that make up that unit.
Yeah, I will say the Shen, Hoffman, Perron line is either the last game or the game before that. They got smoked at 5-on-5. So I don't know that they're going to be very strong as a 5-on-5 line. I've got some issues playing the Shen, Perron, Hoffman trio, especially for these prices. Like, they're not cheap at all. And so I'm kind of going with the chalk here. Tarasenko, 4,200. People are mentioning free square. In a cash game, like he's an awesome play. He's a guy who shoots like in the top 2% of the league in terms of just like shot attempt rates. So he's awesome for 4,200. If you want to play him as a one-off in a tournament, just make sure you're not slamming in Edmonton 1 plus the 2 chalk defensemen type of thing. So just be aware of what you're doing if you're playing him in a otherwise chalky lineup. He's going to be popular as a one-off, and rightfully so. I like the full stack: O'Reilly, Kyrou, and Tarasenko. I don't love their matchup though at 5-on-5. Couture, Kane, and LeBanc are pretty strong, and they're going to take the opposing top competition. So I actually have, I think, a little bit more interest in San Jose 1 if ownership wasn't a thing. Ownership is a thing, and we're showing them pretty popular. I don't know actually if you can pair them with Edmonton 1, and so I think they might come down a little bit. It looks like you potentially could if you played two $2,500 defensemen. So I don't think it's going to be like San Jose 1 is going to be actually as popular as what we have them right now, but we'll see where they end up closer to lock. One of my favorite mid-range lines, don't mind St. Louis 1 on the other side. Timo Meier is a game-time decision for the Sharks. That would help them out. I wouldn't mind going to Meier and Balcers or Gambrell, the full San Jose 2 as well, getting to go up against the Shen line. But yeah, San Jose 1, St. Louis 1, maybe some San Jose 2 for me as more of a large field MME play tonight, which I'm definitely chasing. It sounds like you are. as well. We're playing that big $10. And there's a 444 on FanDuel as well. Anything else here?
No, I was just gonna say I'll be on the FanDuel side of that, but definitely going to be throwing in a fair amount of lineups into the big GPP tonight and chasing it along with you. I'm with you on that San Jose one. I think they're one of the top lines of the night. Not very expensive compared to the other lines at the top of the board. Third overall on both sites on Alex's top stacks tool in terms of being one of the top 2 stacks of the night. Not getting a massive amount of ownership compared to their probability of being one of the top 2. They're negative leverage, but it's only slightly negative. And at that price, I think that's one of those good chalk spots that we want to pay up for and try and get beyond the field on, unless that ownership changes dramatically, which it could as we head toward lock. If people start figuring out creative ways to pair them with, like the top Colorado line, the top Edmonton line, of course, and some of those St. Louis lines, I think that's going to make them super popular really quickly. So we'll see. But as it stands right now, I think they make a ton of sense to leverage up on.
Top Stacks tool actually just got updated 4 minutes ago. So very good timing here if you want to give that a refresh. And I will say St. Louis 1 and San Jose 1, both a little bit of negative leverage. I don't have that big of a problem with that when they're one of the highest chances of being a top 2 stack. Mm-hmm. But, just like there's going to be some popular pairings with those 2 lines. It looks like specifically that's where a lot of people will fall if they're not going to Edmonton 1. Now I wouldn't be surprised if McDavid and Draisaitl were like 45, 50, 60% owned in some tournaments. It is a relatively small slate. So in like smaller field stuff, I think I will be liking some San Jose 1, some St. Louis 1, and maybe moving on from there with a lower owned mid-price stack with some expensive defensemen. It looks like that's not going to be a very popular roster construction tonight. So these are some things I'm thinking about as we're going through. Burns, 6,700. I'm a big yes on him. I almost always am. And then on the Blues side, Krug is power play 1, but he's not really a guy I want off very often. I like some Vince Dunn, still priced down a little bit, 3,600. He's playing around 20 minutes a night. I don't mind it, but not really in love with Vince Dunn as I have been in years past. Anything else? Oh, wait, hold on. Top Stacks tool says McDavid, Puljujarvi, Nugent Hopkins. If you refresh that, it has changed now. So that's what it was earlier. FC has updated their lines. That's where we take the lines from. And so that is fixed now. They are the top stack on the night. No surprise there. 34.7% chance of being a top 2 stack. 28% ownership share with 1 line. So that is a lot of ownership to eat. I will be doing it a lot. All right, let's move it on.
It's a lot of ownership, but it's less ownership than their probability of being the top, right? So you're getting that nice 6 leverage score on them. And just comparatively, that 34.7% is nearly double the mark of that San Jose 1 line that is now second on the board. So you're talking about a probability that's nearly double and starting to push close to that like half the time. 34% isn't half the time, but we're getting up there in the frequency with which that's going to be one of the top stacks. I mean, that line is that's a smash spot for sure. I'm not telling anybody anything they don't know here, but I just want to reinforce how good that line looks tonight, that Edmonton 1 line.
Yeah. So if you like Edmonton 1, you look at the top stacks tool, you're going to, if anything, like them a little bit more. So go check that out if you guys have not already. We're going to get on to the Kings and the Ducks. We got a 2.8 implied total for LA, 2.6 for Anaheim. It's going to be Cal Peterson, likely John Gibson for the Ducks. As we were talking, and I'm looking in Slack, it looks like one of the beats has posted lines. I don't know if these are confirmed for the Duck side. They had Comtois with Getzlaff and Troy Terry, Jones with Zegras and Ricard Raquel, and then Sonny Milano with Henrik Silfverberg. Henrik and Silfverberg, not Henrik Silfverberg. That's 2 different guys, Adam Henrik and Jacob Silfverberg. I mean, I think this is going to be where people go with their secondary stacks. It's going to be something in the top 6 here with their Edmonton 1. So is there anything you like? Is there anything you really don't like in this game? What are you seeing here, Kings Ducks?
So I think maybe if we want to play, that Kings top line is okay in my book. You can get away with a little bit there. And then I think that Kings 2 line is just very cheap and not super popular. So I think they just kind of click into things kind of well. Kings 2, 55-31 together back to the start of last year is the unit that I had, which was Anastasio, Velarde, and Carter together. 55.7% Corsi 4, pretty good at even strength. 3-2 goals for, 64% expected goals for advantage, though, which I like. The top line over there, the follow Kopitar, Dustin Brown line, a lot of time together, 858-45 back to the start of last year. Good 5-on-5, 53% Corsi 4, 36-26 in goals for. It's a 58% actual, but only a 50% expected goals for advantage. So dead on. 128-145. So they trail in high danger chances, but they've scored 20 goals and only yielded 18. So they give up a few more high danger chances, but have converted on more of them. Just a line that's going to be out on the ice a lot, has some ability to score, and one of the the better lines on that team, and not overly expensive, not overly owned. So they kind of fit into some of the things that we're doing. On the other side of things, with the lines up in the air a little bit, kind of throws my notes off. So we're just going to toss it to the side. I would say maybe try and look for some of the power play correlation, and just try and stack those lines if that's where you're going. You're not going to pay very much for anybody. Nobody's going to be that owned. But this is one of the worst teams in hockey. They're not very good at scoring. They're not very good at defense. So I don't love going to them as anything other than a value play.
Zegras and Raquel together, I think, would be very interesting. I don't know if we're going to have that news before lock. The Ducks are one of the worst teams at giving out news. The Kings aren't great either, but I think at least we know that Kopitar is going to be with Brown and Iafallo. Looks like that could potentially be a popular pairing with Edmonton 1, and really like all these lines, I think. So don't be fooled by the low ownership with some of these lines, because I think if you're seeing like Edmonton 1 and you're jamming in LA 2, like, man, it could be like half the lineups with LA 2 have Edmonton 1. So, you might not be being as contrarian as you think with just a finite number of lines you can fit in with a 21 to Edmonton 1. So we keep going back to Edmonton 1 because they're probably going to end up deciding the slate one way or the other. People are asking, should you fade a line with that high of ownership? I mean, just depends on what you're trying to accomplish. If you can get unique, good lineups with Edmonton 1, feel free to play them, and maybe don't play the ones that are going to be more doopy. So that's what I would say about that. Maybe power play stack with the Ducks, or you could put in these new lines that we saw from the tweet. Maybe people won't have those combos, and if you guess right, might be in a pretty good spot to get a low-owned trio. Getzlaf with Comtois and Terry, I think, is fine. They're probably going to stick together, but we just don't really know outside of a couple lines in this game. Velarde with Athanasiou and Jeff Carter, I don't think they're going to be very strong defensively at 5-on-5, but the Ducks are not strong defensively, so I don't think the Ducks are just going to pound them. I don't mind going to some LA too. Look, this game is just more for fillers than anything for me. So maybe if you want to play a ton of Edmonton 1, you're going to get a ton of fillers from this game if you're double stacking. What about defensemen?
Yeah, I think, Shattenkirk is obviously, I think we've mentioned him every single time we've done a show because they're always playing on our slates, and he's always cheap. He's on the power play. He's relatively productive. So he's a guy that you could definitely sneak in there, particularly if you're stacking that Ducks power play. I think, you can go to that power play unit if you're looking for a creative way to get to the Ducks, if you're trying to force Ducks tonight. But again, one of the worst teams in hockey, 7-12-6 on the season. That's 20 points in 25 games, 7th in the West. They're 28th in the league in goals scored with 54. There you've got the 28th best power play. So if we're buying into the power play, we're buying into a power play that converts 13.5% of the time. It's just not a good team. So you can pick off duos in here. Maybe if you want to go to that Comtois Getzlaf Terry line, that's not going to be very popular. Yeah, it's a different line that you can click in with Edmonton 1, and that's really how we want to be thinking about these teams. Just what's the utility of these lines, and we're just rolling the dice. We're counting it as, all right, when I roster this, I'm counting it as if this happened, I'm already factoring in the if they come through, right? So we're counting that as it's happened. So this is a lower owned way to get to that result that we want. So yeah, you can go to them. I think that works better though with going to LA2 over LA1. Less expensive line, lower owned on both sites, both accounts. So if you're thinking in terms of, all right, I want to go to LA1, like you said, they're not very popular overall, but most of the ownership of LA1 is probably going to be paired with that Edmonton one. So if you're already thinking, all right, I've got Edmonton 1 locked in, let me go to LA1, just build in LA2, and now you've got more money to spend on your goaltender and your defense, and you're getting different. You're building a different combination because those guys who pay up to the LA1 line, even though it's not a huge expense, not very different, there's enough savings there that you're going to be on very different defensemen and potentially a better goaltender. So just making that decision makes your entire lineup different while still going with some very chalky stuff. So I would say no to that person who asked if we should fade Edmonton. Just make the blanket decision. Yeah, I want to fade them. Yeah. That's not the decision. The decision is, do I want to be a little under the field or do I want to be well over the field? It's not really a blanket. I want to take them off my books completely because like you said, they're going to decide the slate for us tonight. Whether they come through or not, it's going to decide the slate, right? And there's going to be a ton of people on both sides of that. So you just got to decide how heavy you want to be on either side of that result, but you don't want to take them off your books completely. That would be a mistake. So figure out the way to get to them in the proportion to the slate that you want, and then figure out a way to do that differently than the people that you're going to be competing with.
Yeah, and I think that's just good advice just for general DFS play, especially in sports where you're stacking. So
absolutely,
could not have said that better myself. Looks like we've got almost 350 people watching. That might be a concurrent record so far this season. A lot of people heading over to the NHL waters on various sites. If you guys haven't just yet, check out Jock Market. They are offering a $50 deposit bonus with promo code Awesemo NHL 50. That is Awesemo NHL 50, and they'll match your first deposit up to $50. Expires Saturday. Go check them out. Shout out to Jock Market for sponsoring the show. Just wanted to make sure I got them in another time before the show ends because we're very excited to have them sponsoring us going forward. Let's get to the last game on the slate. We've got Montreal and Vancouver, 3.3 implied total for Montreal, 2.8 for the Canucks. It is Carey Price, and it is going to be Thatcher Demko for Vancouver. Couple of nights ago, we had Vancouver in a similar spot against Toronto. Some of the stuff I was looking at was telling me to play Vancouver. I ended up limiting them, and they were awesome. And so specifically the JT Miller, Brock Besser line was very good. It looks like they're picking up a little bit of ownership, not too much, but this is a game that they played a few times earlier in the season. There were a lot of fireworks all over the place. Tyler Toffoli seems like he just waits till he plays Vancouver to score a hat trick and just does it very easily. You've got, I think, probably 5 playable lines in this one here. And another good part about this one is if you like something in the Anaheim, LA game and, you get the lines wrong, they're different at pregame warmup, you can always swap to something in this game. We've got some cheap options specifically on the Vancouver side. So slate's not going to be over until these last 2 games get going. I think it's going to be a late one, especially if Edmonton 1 goes off. There will be a lot of different combos in the mix. What are you liking in this one here? Elite Montreal 1 line at 5-on-5. What are you thinking?
Yeah, that's a heck of a line. 752-13 together going back to the start of last year. 61.6% Corsi for percentage, just dominant 5-on-5 puck percentage. 45-29 goals for. That's a 60.8 actual versus a 62.07 expected goals for. Just dominant goals differential. 211 to 115 in high danger chances generated. 29-18 in high danger goals. Nothing not to like about that line. Definitely can get to them. And they're not crazy prohibitively expensive, and they're not over the top owned. So that's a great spot. Definitely a spot on the board where if you're going away from that Edmonton line, if you're going away from that top San Jose line, one of the lines that I want to be considering. And then I think 2 and 3 are very much in play for Montreal as well. Second line back to the start of last year as composed here, 64-07 together, 51-75 Corsi for, 3 to 5 goals for, but just a lot of skill on that line, particularly with Druin and Suzuki. So I think we can definitely get to them. And then, like you said, I think the Toffoli line has some legs there too. And if you're getting him and you like the narrative about the hat trick, there's a hat trick bonus on FanDuel that you can get to as well. So toss him into your FanDuel lines.
Yeah, yeah. So you kind of mentioned like all the lines that I think are reasonable plays here. A lot of people don't like dipping down to third lines. In my opinion, the Montreal third line, Kotkaniemi with Toffoli and Josh Anderson, that's not really a third line. That's not a third line on really any other team. And they've got three lines that have been working for them all season. So I'm treating that as, basically a second line or a top line, especially with their pricing the way that it is. Toffoli 7,300, Anderson 5,400. Did you have something?
Sorry, I was going to jump in with the top two goal scorers on the team, or the guy tied for second on the team or on that line. Toffoli's got 15 goals. Anderson's got 10. So Anderson's tied with Gallagher at 10 goals, but Toffoli's leading the team with 15 goals.
Yeah, Toffoli, absolute stud, $7,300. Might be a little bit expensive here, but Vancouver has their issues. Elias Pettersson, their top line center, is not going to be playing. So you're going to get JT Miller centering Hoglander and Besser. That is the line that I like a lot for Vancouver. Miller and Besser are going to play big minutes, probably over 20, as is Bo Horvat. And so if you wanted to do some sort of power play stack, I think that is very appealing on Vancouver because Montreal just cannot stay out of the penalty box. They haven't been able to the whole season. They play incredibly well at 5-on-5, but they just can't stop taking penalties. And so you're probably going to get a handful of opportunities with Vancouver. I like just going with, their best players, Horvat, Miller, Besser, some combo of those guys. Throw in some Quinn Hughes for 5,500. I really, really like Vancouver power play. And then you can play any of these three Montreal lines at 5-on-5. The power play correlation on any one of them isn't phenomenal, but I like going with the third line, Toffoli, Kotkaniemi, and Josh Anderson if you can't get up to this Montreal one. The only problem I have with Montreal one is that I think they're going to be very popular with Edmonton one. And I get it. It feels good when you put it in the lineup. If you put those six forwards in Edmonton one plus Montreal one, you still got 4,700 remaining. If you put in a cheap goalie and a couple cheap defensemen, it's, you're going to feel awesome with two great lines. But I think a lot of people are going to have that idea tonight. So if I can, I'm going to be dropping down to some Montreal 3. What about defensemen? You got Weber, Petrie, or any of those guys heavy targets for you this evening?
Yeah, I think we can get to a little bit of both of them. I would probably prefer Petrie just on the ownership, but I do like that Weber's cheaper on FanDuel. He's only 51, where Petrie's 62, which is a pretty remarkable difference, but that's what's driving the ownership differential. On DraftKings, it's the right way up. Well, it's a little closer, I should say, 6.5 versus 6.3, and you're getting Petrie a lot lower owned. So I think we could probably play the ownership game there, but I like both defensemen on Montreal for sure. Just a note also on the 5-on-5 thing. I think if we get that Pearson, Horvat, Virtanen line up top for Vancouver, over 176 minutes, 49 seconds going back to the start of last year, they're only a 46% Corsi for percentage line. So I think attacking them at 5-on-5 could pay off well with some of those Montreal lines as well. 48.44% Corsi for percentage as a team for Vancouver. So definitely exploitable. And then Montreal on the PK, 21st in the league, 76% penalty kill. So definitely attacking them with the Vancouver power play makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I really do like this game much more than the Kings Ducks game in the late night hammer. So I think I'll be heavily exposed to this one. Once again, Montreal 3, I like a lot. I like Montreal 1, but not a ton with Edmonton 1. Unless you're going to do some like 3-2, then you can kind of throw it out the window. I think if you take one of the forwards off, then you might be a little bit contrarian. But Vancouver 2/Vancouver power play, Miller, Besser, Hoglander, if you want to go even strength, throw in Horvat, throw in Tanner Pearson. And I think I'll even have some full 5-man power play stacks of Vancouver tonight. I know it's a low total, but Montreal's had a couple games where they commit 7-8 penalties. And if you're on the power play the whole game, I don't care who you are or how many guys you're missing. Like, you're just going to have really good opportunities to score. And it's not like the Canucks are throwing out a bunch of stiffs on offense. They've still got some quality players, even without Elias Pettersson.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people asking some just general DFS, NHL DFS questions. If you guys do want a quick course, I guess you would call it, Alex and I did an evergreen video. This will apply to not just tonight's slate, but if you're looking to learn about NHL DFS, Alex and I did a video on the Awesemo YouTube account. just go there, go to the NHL playlist. It's one of our previous videos. We did it last Friday, and we talked about not only the basics, like scoring, stacking, just general strategy. We also went into lineup construction, talked about Fantasy Cruncher a little bit, talked about the lineup builder. If you have a premium package, you can use that. Or if you have an NBA pass, you've got Platinum unlocked for this week. So no excuses. Go check out that video. It's about 45 minutes long. And it's just Alex and I talking a little bit of strategy. I see producer Chris put that up. Perfect. There you go. Go find that. It's just called How to Win at NHL DFS. I think you guys will find that useful regardless of what level you are in terms of playing NHL DFS. All right, Terry. I think we have wrapped it up. We did a good job going through everything. Travis Hamonic, 2,900. You didn't mention him, did you?
No.
Okay.
Did not. Good call.
Just going to play. He's going to play 20 plus. He's playing paired with Quinn Hughes. Going to block some shots likely, especially when you factor in how good Montreal is at 5-on-5. They're going to carry play. He's willing to block some shots. Sub 3K, I think a very good punt option if you're not going all the way down to the Artem Zubs of the world. This is a really good slate, man. I'm excited to play this.
Yeah, me too. This is going to be fun to get into. So I'm psyched that I can really sit here and actually play the slate the way I want to, and really kind of dig in and get into Fantasy Cruncher and everything, rather than kind of frantically throwing in hand building lines and then checking back, making sure the lines are right and all that, like I've been doing. So this should be fun.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun. If you guys came in late and you want to listen on pod, we'll have everything up on podcast tonight. NHL is the only show in town. I'll be around pretty much until lock, and probably through lock, tilting and slack, chasing after these 50Ks and 20Ks all over the place. It's going to be a fun time. Feel free to hit me up with questions in Slack or in just my Twitter DMs. They're open. They're always open. Everyone's usually pretty nice and polite to me. If it's around lock, I might not be able to get to it until lock. But if you message me, I'll be happy to help out. Always love seeing some new people getting involved in NHL DFS. All right, who's your hat trick pick of the night? Since we've got until the end of the hour, hat trick pick of the night. I'm kind of putting you on the spot. I think I know mine, but I want to hear yours first.
Boy, that just totally put me on the spot. I was tempted to steal Toffoli from you.
Let's go. No Edmonton power play here. So no one on Edmonton. If you take them out, who do you got for your hat trick play of the night?
I'll dive into that other chalky popular line that we talked about. I'll go with Evander Kane. What the hell?
That's a good.
8 goals on the year. Should see plenty of time on the ice. One of the top lines on the night.
All right, I love it. I'm gonna go with Brock Besser, 5,900. Looks like he's under 10% owned. Hopefully, a couple of those are on the power play. My Vancouver onslaughts. I really like this one, man. Thanks for joining me. It will be myself and either Cliffy or Josh tomorrow. I can't remember off the top of my head. We'll be breaking it down. Good luck until then, and we'll see you in 24 hours.